Hello guys, I'm no Jake, I'm a philosopher, an hardcore game player, and the greatest game design, level design, narration and gameplay expert in the world. And obviously I'm also a very modest guy, humble and modest guy. And today I want to talk with you about something very interesting, trying to explain why Dragon Age is actually the most important saga of video games we have right now, or at least talking about games that have a story, and I will show you why. Showing you three different kind of storytellings, spanning through different games. This will be very interesting because will help you understand how different and are games compared to other kind of medias like maybe books and just movies. Obviously games makes possible to create very unique things that you've never seen in our history for the humanity. Maybe some books do something similar, to be fair, and we could also say that there are things similar also with some series, with spin-offs, but video games go way more in depth, and Dragon Age do something incredible, and you will see this later. So I will try to be quick, and let's start talking about Final Fantasy. This image here is put at the year of Final Fantasy 9, just represents Final Fantasy in general. I choose Final Fantasy 9 because Final Fantasy 9 is the greatest Final Fantasy ever made. Okay, a lot of fans will love also Final Fantasy 7, 6, I'm just joking. A lot of the old Final Fantasies are amazing. So, how does the narration works in Final Fantasy when we go from Final Fantasy 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, etc. up to 16? The narration in these games works on a very simple way. Let's use a few colors. So, this is Final Fantasy 1. And this is the narration. This is the story of Final Fantasy 1, right? Then, let's use this thing. Then there is Final Fantasy 2. And this is the story of Final Fantasy 2. Then there is Final Fantasy 3. And this is the story of Final Fantasy 3. And this goes on in the same way. And so essentially, these lines... Story. These lines are not connected. This one is his own story. This one is his own story. And the same goes for 3, 4, etc, etc. Other games, for example, let's say this is Final Fantasy X, right? So Final Fantasy X, after Final Fantasy X there is Final Fantasy 11. This is Final Fantasy 11, right? But there is also Final Fantasy X 2. So this is Final Fantasy X 2, right? And so, this is the story of Final Fantasy X 2. The difference is that, again, this is something... Okay, now this looks like a face, it is very funny. But, these two are connected instead. So, 10 and 11 do not touch. They have nothing in common, except for some names. Instead, 10 and 10-2 are connected because the story here continues. So this is essentially how media works normally, like, and I will see this later. This is a story that continues on another story that continues on another story. And you have all the different chapters, right? Final Fantasy instead is like this, and there are a lot of other RPGs, Japan RPGs, that work the same. Like, essentially they have similar names. They have, like, some could say that they are on the same world. Others can argue that they just use the same names, the same archetypes. Theme songs are similar, but they are completely different story, and this is the case with Final Fantasy. Every new entry is another world, except for spin-offs that can be connected, except for continuing like Final Fantasy X and X-2. This is how Final Fantasy works. I'm not using Final Fantasy randomly. I think Final Fantasy is the most important RPG saga, Japan RPG saga. And I think Fallout and Dragon Age are the most important Western RPG sagas. So now let's take a look at how Fallout works instead. And why is Fallout 4 here? 8 years ago, no. I think it's now 9, maybe almost 10 years ago, no, maybe 9 years ago. I made a video on my channel in Italian because I'm from Italy. Ciao, sono italiano. Talking about the fact that I think Fallout 4 is better than Fallout 3 on a lot of things. Still today, maybe a lot of people do not agree with that. I also explained that Fallout 4 is one of the greatest RPG ever made. And it still has some of the best RPG mechanics ever. The builds you can do is crazy. In fact, if you watch on YouTube, you find a lot of builds. Something that you can't do on Fallout 3. Because it's way more limited than Fallout 4. Despite this, people said a lot of shit, unfortunately, about Fallout 4 at the start. But today, finally, people are recognizing what I said 9 years ago. That Fallout 4 is a very amazing RPG. Maybe one of the greatest RPG ever made. But now, let's talk. This is why I use Fallout 4. It's the same reason why I use Final Fantasy 9, because it's my favorite. Fallout 4 is my favorite, so I use it as a picture. How does the story of Fallout games works? I played Fallout 1 and I completed that, but I don't remember if you had different endings right now. But let's pretend. So this is the story of Fallout 1, right? Let's pretend he has 2 different endings. So the game goes like this. This is a 1. This is Fallout 1 and this is his story. Okay? Now, there is Fallout 2. So, on a media, again, on a movie, you just watch movie 1 and then you watch movie 2. And movie 2 just continues the story of movie 1, obviously. Sometimes people mess up, directors, and like, despite the story of 1 being on a way, for some reason the story on 2 doesn't make any sense with the story of 1, because they don't even remember their own movies, or they didn't want to continue the same story, they decide to change things. These are called retcons, right? And retcons obviously happen on video games too. But in this case, usually retcons or not retcons, what happens is that, for example, a guy did this ending, right? And another guy did instead this other ending. So now what will happen is that all of these 2 will be chosen for Fallout 2. Or they will keep vague some of the information so that you can still think your story was the right one. But the truth is that Fallout 2 is yellow because this ending is the right one. So this is how the story of Fallout 2 continues. The developers choose a branch and makes that branch the canon one. There can be a lot of other things you did that can be canon 2 or not, that are not mentioned on Fallout 2, for example. But essentially, this is how it works. Now Fallout 2 maybe has, I don't know, 3 endings. I don't really remember, guys. I played these 2 games, but I don't remember their endings, to be fair. So let's pretend they have 3 endings, right? And now Fallout 3 will do the same thing. We'll choose one of these. This time we'll choose this one. And this will be the right story. And this goes on, obviously, up to Fallout 4. Now, this is Fallout 3. Let's pretend... These are way too many, but let's pretend these are some variations, right? Fallout 4, once again. We'll essentially choose one. There should be New Vegas somewhere around here. Let's insert New Vegas too, otherwise someone will get mad. And let's say that New Vegas is one of the best RPGs ever made too, okay? Okay, so no one gets mad at me. Now Fallout 4 chooses one of these things once again. And this will be Fallout 4. It will then have again all its own endings. Let's pretend there are just 4: Institute, Minutemen, Railroads, and Brotherhood of Steel. Okay. So this is all. Okay, this is super fake. Fallout 3 doesn't have more endings than Fallout 4. So this is all Fallout and a lot of other medias work when they have different endings. On the continue, they usually keep the ending of... they choose one ending and make that ending the canon. This is how it works. And now, there is Dragon Age. So for first, I want to explain something. I hope you will be with me for this, and you will understand, and you won't be mad. A lot of people complain about the fact that Dragon Age changed, okay? Because it changed the style of gameplay. Some people say it's less tactical. Like, it's not like those CRPGs anymore. CRPGs stands for computer RPG, I think. It is these RPGs where you control characters from above. In this case, you control the characters in... okay, let's not dive too much into the gameplay. What I want to say is that, for example, in Final Fantasy, up to Final Fantasy 12 and 13, all the Final Fantasy had in common something. They had an amazing story, they had a party of characters interacting with each other, and you had an RPG system that made these Final Fantasies some way personalizable. You had some strategy you could use in these Final Fantasies, from the 1 up to the 13, and 14 too, but 14 is online, so I'm not mentioning that one for this reason. From Final Fantasy 15, they did something that already broke with the past. You can't control anymore your other characters. You still have a party. The party is just 4 guys from the start up to the end, way different than all the previous Final Fantasies, where you meet characters along the way, and there is way more conflict and things happening between these characters. This is why the Final Fantasies were amazing, because it was the characters were so different. It was very interesting watching them together interacting. Final Fantasy 15 already changes this, so you control only a character. It's an action RPG, but this, in my opinion, doesn't really matter too much. Final Fantasy 16 instead. So after like 14 entries in just 2 games, 15 and 16, they completely annihilated all the things that made Final Fantasy great. Great story, great characters, great party that interact with each others, and a good system that gives some strategy. Final Fantasy 15 and 16 annihilated this. 16 is just a DMC-like, where you control a single character, and that's it. You have some people that are with you, but we can barely call them a party anymore. So they really completely changed what Final Fantasy is in just two chapters that lasts for 16 mainline games. 16, okay? And people sometimes say we can't complain about this. Dragon Age. Let's talk about what Dragon Age is, okay? So this is Dragon Age 1. We will expand on these lines later. This is Dragon Age 2, and the fact that this is red, it has a meaning. This is Dragon Age, let's use blue for Inquisition. And this will be Veilguard, okay? So, Dragon Age 1 was that... Dragon Age Origins, not 1. Was that CRPG. Let's call this CRPG. Okay? Dragon Age 2 was an action game. Was essentially an action game. More action than Dragon Age Inquisition. Like, this is not a spin-off, this is Dragon Age 2, this is the continuation of Dragon Age Origins. And this is like At most we can call this action RPG. At most. At most. Okay? Dragon Age Inquisition instead is also an action RPG, but is like this one is more action and less RPG. Dragon Age Inquisition is an action RPG where you control a party. Like Dragon Age Inquisition is more Final Fantasy due to the party than the last entries of Final Fantasy. This thing is more RPG than action, because you can still stop time, you can control all the characters, there are a lot of builds, a lot of combinations you can do based on your team, a lot of things. It is a very enjoyable RPG in my opinion. Not as deep maybe of the one, okay, but this is more similar to the original one than the two. So what you notice here, you notice that these three games are all different. So the one is on a way, the second is on another way, the third one is more similar to the one but still action, and now there is the fourth one, Dragon Age the Veilguard. Just talking about gameplay, later we'll talk about the rest. So this thing here is again an action RPG. This time we'll focus on dodging. So this thing is becoming more similar to the trends of these years, and I think it's a good idea. So it is more similar to a skill-based game like a Souls-like, right? But without stamina for dodging and moving. That's why it is not a Souls-like, because the difference, because between a simple action RPG and a Souls-like is that in the Souls-likes you have a dodge that consumes stamina. That's it. That's the only difference for sure. Only it's just that a lot of people don't understand this aspect. So this is still an action RPG. Probably less action than this one. Let's say that this is still a bit RPG, but more action. This was more a lot of action and not a lot of RPG, and this instead has this balance. So more action compared to Dragon Age Inquisition. It essentially changed this balance. Now it's more action and a bit less RPG, while this one was not a lot RPG almost at all. This is what Dragon Age the Veilguard is. And why this is not a problem? Why they are not like, because these games are all different. All the engines are different between each other, so they are not betraying anyone when they decide to make Dragon Age the Veilguard more action and less RPG. I'm not happy about the fact that you can't control the other characters. This will be like Final Fantasy 16 essentially, but not a Devil May Cry, still an action RPG. I'm not happy, but it still can work. What does matter is that then the game balance has to be good based on this. What does matter is that you can still control some of the action of the other characters. You can choose their AI or their behave, and thank you to this, you still feel you have a strategy. You still feel like you have some choices, some RPG choices that makes your build, etc. matter. This is what makes a good RPG. The fact that your build matters and is satisfying. So you feel well where you manage to create something interesting. Okay? So this is what I think about the gameplay. This is why I think Dragon Age the Veilguard is not betraying anyone. Because Dragon Age changed already with the second chapter. These things are different. They are not the same. They are not the same. This thing is different and this thing is different. Okay? So now, talk about the story. So, all these games manage the story. Why is Dragon Age the Veilguard, Dragon Age, the Saga of Dragon Age, the most important saga in the history of video games right now? Because, like, I don't know about others, maybe there are other examples. If there are, tell me in the comment, it will be very interesting to discover. This maybe I will check later and will go more deep into the things. I could do another video talking about other sagas that are similar, but this is the saga where I saw this thing for the first time. So, this is Fallout 4, right? The story here goes like this. Let's say in Origins we have, I don't know, 3 endings. I don't really know, guys. I don't remember. I'm sorry. This doesn't really matter. Dragon Age, the Saga of Dragon Age does something incredible. So this is the main story, like, right? What does Dragon Age? Is that it doesn't choose 1 or 2. The Saga of Dragon Age takes all of the ramifications and make the story, like, these are not even connected. These are not even connected. The truth is that this line is too tiny. This line is continuing right here. This other line is continuing right here. And this other line is continuing right here. All the part of the story, all the decisions you took in Dragon Age 1 are passed on Dragon Age 2. So there is the main story, the most important things that happens and they are talked about in the game. They go on. So for example now Dragon Age 2 they didn't have so many ramifications. Let's say that it has 3 once again, okay? Dragon Age Inquisition did the same once again. But the fact is that these 3 here are multiplied by 3. Because every line coming from here, let's use a smaller line. Every line coming from Dragon Age 1 now is split in 3 more lines. So the truth is that now Dragon Age Inquisitions doesn't have to take in account just 3 things. It has to take in account 3 things multiplied by all the choices of Dragon Age Origins. And these are not 3. Because the choices you have in Dragon Age Origins that are passed on Dragon Age 2 are way more than 3. It could be 10, it could be 20. And this 20 is multiplied by all the choices in Dragon Age 2. So now Dragon Age Inquisitions, and this is what made Dragon Age Inquisition one of the greatest games ever. Dragon Age Inquisition took in account dozens of different choices. Maybe 50, 60, 70, maybe 100 different things that happen in Dragon Age 1 and 2 are passed by on Dragon Age Inquisition, all combined, and based on the decisions you took, dialogues, some events, some characters, all these things will change. And you will have a different experience. The main core, the blue line, is the same, because it is the main story they want to tell you, right? But there are a lot of small other things that change based on your decisions. What you made on Dragon Age Origins in 2 and 3 will probably matter. Let's use another color now. Let's use, I don't know. Okay, let's use again a big gray. This gray represents all the different choices that comes from the past games. So now this thing will create an incredible amount of ramifications. It was already incredible here. And now, obviously, look, like, this is why Dragon Age is the most important saga. Like, this is the only example I know right now of a game doing something like this. They don't just tell other stories. They don't just decide the canon one. They take in account whatever you did, you decide that, and that's the canon. When you play Dragon Age Inquisition, it is the free, there was a thing called Dragon Age Keep. It was a website. Let's write in a very bad way. It was a website where you could take the decisions of Dragon Age 1 and 2 to then connect to your account in Dragon Age Inquisition, so that you could customize your starting adventure in Dragon Age Inquisition, deciding, like, you can pass out your save file, or you can create your old save file if you lost that, or you can just create a new one with different choices. This is incredible because, for example, on Dragon Age Inquisition, you can play as a Kunari, but then, since there is a very important character called Solas, you can use Dragon Age Keep and made that in Dragon Age Inquisition your own character was not a Kunari, but it was a female elf that was in love with Solas. And now you can start Dragon Age the Veilguard with that. And now there is a character that theoretically is still alive, that is in love with Solas, that is actually one of the characters that is important for Dragon Age the Veilguard. I want to say anything more. And here we talked about gameplay, we talked about the system, how this game's work in the narration that is really unique and incredible. And I didn't even talk about how amazing the revelations, the story, and the plot twists of Dragon Age Inquisitions were. So, we take all of this in Dragon Age the Veilguard. And now, we have to discover what will happen. This is what will happen, so this line here, this grey line, will converge into Dragon Age the Veilguard after 3 entries, taking again all the things, or we'll just decide the line and make that line the new canon, like Fallout does, for example. And I want to end this video with a very interesting little secret. So I watched some people that have the chance of playing the Dragon Age the Veilguard, and they talk about the fact that there is a feature they can't talk about yet that was secret. What I think, this is my theory, what I think is that yes, Dragon Age the Veilguard will keep all the advancement of the story up to this point into account, and instead of using Dragon Age Keep, so instead of forcing you to use an external website, I think that Dragon Age the Veilguard will have an in-game option to let you see the story of all the 3 previous games and decide all the important things you want to keep on your story. I think when you start Dragon Age the Veilguard, you can choose to just start the game with a predetermined story. You can choose to pass your save file from Dragon Age Inquisition, or you can choose to use a tool that will be in-game that will let you create your story of Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age 3. So that then you will start Dragon Age 4, the Veilguard, and you will see all the things you decide on the previous games, even if you didn't play them, passed on Dragon Age the Veilguard. This is my theory. I hope I helped you understand this. I hope I helped you, like, telling stories from the start anew is cool, because you don't need to think about the past, and you can create very unique stories. Deciding a canon is also cool, because it is very cool to reach, arrives a new entry, Fallout 5, and we say, whoa, we'll discover what was the canon ending of Fallout 4. How cool is that? I think it is very cool. But while these guys were doing all of this, the developers, I mean, they were watching a Dragon Age, like the meme of the guy with the girl walking end to end, and then the guy watches behind him because he's seeing another girl that he likes. This is this meme essentially. Like these people are doing their normal way, because everyone does games like this. But every developer watches a Dragon Age like this. They see Dragon Age and they can only be jealous, because the developers here did something incredible, taking into account all of this and making every decision we take on all the previous games matter. No one ever did something like this. If someone does this, maybe there are some indies, some games I don't know that do this. They didn't do this on a scale that is so huge. So this is why Dragon Age the Veilguard and Dragon Age in general is the most important RPG saga in the history of video games. Maybe it's the most important saga of the video games, not just about RPGs. because this thing they did is incredible. And if this game fails, we will lose something very, very precious. Like, these things are things we see everywhere. If Fallout fails, someone will take Fallout and will create another Fallout. It doesn't matter. But if this fails, we won't lose just the Dragon Age 5. We will lose this. We will lose everything. We will lose all these connections. Do you understand how huge this is? How incredible and amazing this is? So, if you have time, I tried Dragon Age Inquisitions. Played it fast on a low difficulty. Enjoyed the story. Enjoyed the quest or the quests of the companions because are amazing. The companions of Dragon Age Inquisitions are extremely beautiful, interesting. And then play the Trespassers DLC. Just play main game and Trespassers DLC. You will have one of the best RPG adventures ever, experiences ever, with a story that is mind-blowing. You can use Dragon Age Keep to check the entries of Dragon Age Origins and 2, play 3. Then if you don't have time, jump straight into Veilguard. And then we will see if we can pass our save file, or I'm right and there will be a feature like the Keep on Dragon Age the Veilguard. Or if you have more time and if you feel like after the Inquisition, try Dragon Age Origins and try Dragon Age 2. If you become a fan after Dragon Age Inquisition already. This is what I wanted to say. This is the explanation of why Dragon Age the Veilguard, like Final Fantasy is one of the most important sagas, Fallout 2, but Dragon Age is way too important. Again, I'm not Jake, philosopher, hardcore gamer, the greatest game design, narration, gameplay, game expert ever. I wish you the best. I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope this content was interesting and gave you some things you didn't know. This is Nami. This little one here. The one there is Robin, and then there is Rufus somewhere else. Strange. Usually he's always here. Let's talk in the comment if you want about whatever you want, about all the things I said. If for some reason you think I'm wrong about something, I don't know. Or if you appreciate this content and you have something to add to enrich my knowledge too about these games and this system of the narration amazing that the Dragon Age has. Bye bye!